Welcome to the Upside Journal podcast. The phase of isolated AI pilots is over. Today, we're dissecting the 2026 agentic AI roll-up wave, where the capital is flowing, who is acquiring, and how African tech infrastructure is becoming a primary target for global consolidation. We're looking at a massive structural shift in the enterprise tech ecosystem right now. We're moving away from these fragmented standalone tools and aggressively pivoting toward integrated M&A consolidation. So think of this explainer as your precise institutional roadmap for exactly how capital allocation is going to move over the next 12 to 18 months.
Exactly. Let's just dive right into this structural shift. On one side, you've got the recent past, the era of isolated pilots. This was really defined by massive amounts of seed and Series A capital just pouring into highly fragmented, single-function AI tools.
Right, but that market, it's matured. We are now officially entering the era of agentic roll-ups for 2026. Enterprises are literally rejecting point solutions. They just don't want them anymore. They're demanding integrated, platform-based deployments. And because of that, capital is moving decisively to back acquirers who can seamlessly bundle all these fragmented tools into reliable, full-stack ecosystems.
So, to unpack exactly how this capital movement is playing out, we're going to use a four-part investment framework today. 1. The agentic inflection point. 2. Predictable roll-up targets. 3. The African infrastructure advantage. And 4. Strategic positioning for 2026. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The agentic inflection point. Let's talk about market pressures.
To really understand this inflection point, we have to look at the specific market pressures pushing us past early-stage funding and into mature consolidation. The absolute defining vehicle here is what we call the agentic roll-up.
Right, and for those tracking this, an agentic rollup is basically the consolidation of specialized automation tools into full-stack, governable enterprise platforms by acquirers who already possess the big two, capital and distribution. The crucial reality here, enterprises do not want to manage 50 different AI vendors. It's a nightmare. They demand a singular solution capable of securely orchestrating hundreds of agents simultaneously.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates why the well-funded players out there are buying rather than building. The structural M&A drivers are just incredibly intense right now. First off, there's a huge rising demand for sovereign systems. Governments and corporations absolutely have to respect regional data borders. It's non-negotiable. Then you've got the need for rock-solid data governance.
Yeah, and third is startup scaling pressure. Making that jump from a neat, flashy AI product to true enterprise-grade security, that is incredibly capital-intensive. And finally, you have this immense strategic interest from big tech and infrastructure funds. Add it all up, and M&A consolidation isn't just likely, it's inevitable.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, predictable roll-ups. Specifically, our targets for the second half of 2026.
So if all this capital is consolidating, where exactly is it being allocated going into H2 2026? Well, the first major target is orchestration and control planes. We're talking about managing massive fleets of agents, handling complex delegation protocols, and maintaining those crucial human-in-the-loop workflows. Exactly, because you simply cannot run a massive enterprise operation if your agents are constantly colliding with each other. Startups that have figured out these operational management layers, basically the air traffic controllers for large-scale AI fleets, they are absolutely critical acquisition targets right now. They provide the foundational nervous system for enterprise automation.
Target number 2 focuses on industry-specific vertical agents. These are your specialists. They're loaded with deep domain data in sectors like finance, supply chain, HR, and customer success.
And the why here is pretty simple. Generalist AI models, they just lack the nuance required for highly regulated industry tasks. Vertical agents that actually possess proprietary enterprise traction, along with highly specific, siloed domain data, those represent incredibly defensible moats. Acquirers are actively hunting for these to immediately plug premium industry-ready expertise straight into their platforms.
Now, Target 3 addresses something we absolutely can't ignore: geography and regulation. So edge AI and sovereign infrastructure. These are the companies building compliant, low-latency deployment solutions. Look, in a world with increasingly strict data localization laws, enterprise automation simply cannot just live in a centralized cloud anymore. Edge infrastructure is what allows acquirers to navigate complex data regulations safely. Buying these layers instantly grants a global platform the ability to operate compliantly within sovereign borders. It's a massive strategic advantage.
And our final predictable target category is governance and observability layers. This covers the essentials: audit trails, compliance reporting, and autonomy guardrails.
Because think about it, an enterprise is absolutely not going to deploy an autonomous agent if it cannot audit every single decision that agent makes. It's way too risky. Acquirers are aggressively rolling up startups that specialize in building the brakes and the steering wheels for these AI systems to ensure 100% legal compliance.
So when you take a step back and map these four pillars side by side, orchestration, verticals, edge, and governance, the entire M&A playbook becomes incredibly transparent.
It really does. Acquirers aren't just out there buying random shiny tech. They are meticulously assembling complete automation platforms. It's a deliberate assembly line. They buy a vertical for the domain expertise, they bolt on a governance layer for compliance, they use orchestration to manage the whole thing, and then they deploy it via sovereign edge infrastructure, full stack.
Which brings us to Section 3, the African Infrastructure Advantage. Let's look at the strategic play here. Now, this is a geographic arbitrage opportunity that's kind of flying under the radar for the mainstream, but let me tell you, it is a huge focal point for smart institutional money. Africa's digital economy is perfectly positioned as a primary beneficiary of this roll-up wave. Absolutely. We are seeing intense local and diaspora focus on specialized agentic solutions in areas like remittances, mobile money, agritech, and sovereign AI infrastructure. And international funds, they're intensely targeting African tech platforms. Why? Because they offer highly entrenched distribution networks and market-tailored data that you simply cannot replicate sitting in a boardroom in Silicon Valley.
And this really brings us to a foundational equation from our intelligence mapping at the Journal. African innovation plus global capital plus agentic technology equals defensible businesses. Right, because this isn't just about the software itself. It's about profound cross-border synergy. Global platforms are waking up to the reality that the absolute most efficient way to capture emerging market growth is to just acquire the diaspora engineers and local platforms that already bridge those critical technical and market gaps.
All right, Section 4, Strategic Positioning. Let's talk about the deal thesis for 2026.
Let's translate all of this macro analysis into an actionable playbook. If you're an operator or investor navigating this landscape over the next 12 to 18 months, your deal thesis needs to target 3 very specific profiles. First, acqui-hires of technical teams that possess deep emerging markets experience. Second, you want those platform plus vertical combinations that can immediately accelerate your go-to-market motions in high-growth regions. And third, infrastructure backbone deals that explicitly enable sovereign deployment at scale. Make no mistake, these 3 profiles, they are going to command an absolute premium. But we also need to address the stark reality of the current capital environment, right? Because we are going to see severe valuation compression for early, pure-play standalone agents. The market is basically saying, we will no longer reward isolated tools if they don't have distribution. Conversely, we're going to see massive premium valuations placed on companies that can actually demonstrate proven enterprise traction, robust governance frameworks, and unique emerging market distribution. The takeaway here is simple. Defensible infrastructure wins, while fragmented novelties are going to be repriced incredibly aggressively.
So, what do we do with this? Here are the exact operational steps that operators in smart capital must take right now. Step 1. Rigidly map your current stack against any emerging agentic gaps. Find the holes. Step 2. Aggressively build relationships with infrastructure funds that are laser-focused on that intersection of Africa and AI. And step 3, preemptively evaluate bolt-on acquisition targets that actively strengthen your sovereign deployment capabilities. Honestly, execution on these 3 steps is what will define who captures outsized returns in this wave.
Smart capital moves on pattern recognition, not headlines. If you want to stay ahead of the deal flow, subscribe to the Upside Journal. Access our full intelligence database at theupsidejournal.com to see where the next wave of consolidation is hitting. See you in the next daily drop.